A survivor tells his story
I just braced myself for the hit.
after a crash on camera, pill protest
People are going to do whatever they need to do
in front of a courthouse in Southwest Florida, and a special assignment report looking at the dangers of journalism.
A layer of federal protection.
These stories and more coming up on Newsbreak.
Hello, South Florida. I am Paloma Pimentel.
I'm Amanda Gray. Today is Wednesday, April 12th, 2023.
Live from the FIU Lee Kaplan School of Journalism and Media, this is SFMN Newsbreak.
A motorcycle crash is caught on camera, and miraculously, the injuries are not life-threatening. A South Florida motorcyclist says he's happy to be alive after a terrible crash.
As the network's Amanda Milian reports, it was last month in Fort Pierce.
A Florida motorcyclist is happy to be alive after a terrible crash that he caught on his 360 camera.
43-year-old Will Dover loves to record his motorcycle rides with his 360 camera mounted on his bike. Back on March 25th, that camera captured the moment his morning trip to work quickly took a dangerous turn when a driver crashed into Dover almost head-on.
Just happy to be alive.
Now on crutches, this injured father retells the moments a driver heading north on U.S. Highway 1 in Fort Pierce failed to yield while making a left.
All in one movement, it was just too late. So I just braced myself for the hit.
Dover suffered deep cuts on both legs and injured his shoulder and wrist. He claims wearing a helmet and motorcycle body gear saved his life.
I just think maybe if he wasn't driving that day, I still have my bike.
According to the crash report, the person behind the wheel shouldn't have been driving. They had a suspended license. According to the state last year, more than 112,000 Florida motorists were caught driving with suspended licenses. West Palm Beach attorney Michael Pike says these drivers create hazards on the road.
And significant stress when it comes to people being involved in accidents with those drivers that have suspended licenses. When a driver has a suspended license, he or she is not supposed to be on the road, period, end of story.
There are a number of reasons a person's driver's license could be suspended.
Failure to pay a ticket, reckless driving, certain violations of Florida law can result in a suspended license.
And in most cases, it becomes a domino effect with insurance.
Usually when you have your driver's license suspended, your insurance company will contact you and most likely drop you as a policy holder.
Dover is facing serious medical bills, and for now, he is hoping the suspended driver's insurance will pick up the tab. In the control center, Amanda Milian, South Florida Media Network.
As the Florida House of Representatives prepares to take up a bill preventing most abortions after 6 weeks, 10-hour protests erupted in Fort Myers. Yesterday, protesters held up signs and chanted for 10 hours outside of the old Lee County Courthouse. This location was chosen specifically because it's the local office of Jenna Pearson's Mulika, a sponsor of this bill. Protesters took turns speaking on the open mic, and they advocated for abortion rights as health care.
People are going to do whatever they need to do to stay in the situation that they need, and if they need to do something unsafe that is going to hurt their bodies because of this legislation, they will. So fight for the right for safe laws and for safe health care.
Protests also took place in Tallahassee, where the bill is expected to be discussed on the House floor later this week.
An increasing number of journalists in the U.S. have been targeted for their work. In a special assignment report, the network's Sofia Zuniga takes a look at a proposed law that could increase their safety.
The U.S. Press Freedom Tracker reported that 40 journalists were assaulted in 2022. Now, journalistic organizations are pushing for the Journalist Protection Act, which would make it a federal crime to knowingly assault a journalist on duty.
We're not seeking special treatment for journalists. Anytime a journalist is attacked, anytime a journalist is assaulted, certainly anytime, unfortunately, when a journalist is killed, the ultimate victims are really the members of the public who are then deprived of the work of that journalist and deprived of the information that journalist was seeking and attempting to report.
Senators Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut and Bob Menendez of New Jersey introduced the Journalist Protection Act in 2018. Representative Eric Swalwell of California has introduced the bill in the House 3 times. Groups including the Radio, Television, Digital News Association and the Society of Professional Journalists are advocating for the act to pass during the current congressional session and are optimistic it will be seriously considered.
The strength is in our numbers and our coalition. A lot of times we come together to call for something, and that really creates urgency and attention for that cause.
Over the past decade, 10 journalists have been murdered while on assignment in the United States. The most recent death happened in February of this year, when police say Keith Melvin Moses shot and killed Dylan Lyons, a reporter for Spectrum News 13, at a crime scene in Orlando.
Journalists risk their lives every minute of every day. They're in dangerous situations, and they are very vulnerable and very unprotected.
Experts emphasize that the Journalist Protection Act needs to be at the federal level because the reporter's work could upset local authorities and skew the outcome of the case.
The Journalist Protection Act, though, would add a layer of federal protection so that if a local district attorney or state's attorney or prosecuting attorney decided not to charge or undercharged a defendant accused of assaulting a journalist, then the federal government would have the right to step in. The Department of Justice would have the right to step in and prosecute the attacker on the federal level.
Since 2020, there's been a significant spike in attacks on journalists. 133 were arrested while covering the Black Lives Matter protest starting May of 2020, and 16 journalists were hurt or arrested during the January 6, 2021 insurrection. According to the U.S. Press Freedom Tracker, there were 631 incidents in 2020 where journalists have been assaulted, shot, or sprayed with a chemical irritant, such as pepper spray.
There is a movement, a political movement right now in America, led in part by Governor DeSantis, but many, many other elected and public officials are also falling in this camp, in this movement to try to damage independent journalism, to try to make it more difficult for journalists to serve the public by seeking and reporting the truth.
Meanwhile, in Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis has been attacking New York Times versus Sullivan, a Supreme Court case that protects journalists from defamation claims, but no official legal action has been taken yet. Reporting for the South Florida Media Network, I'm Sophia Zuniga from Washington, D.C.
The Miami Heat are laser focused on their game Friday after a rocky start in the play-in tournament. Yesterday, the Heat faced off against the Atlanta Hawks for the first game of the play-in tournament, and it was rather disappointing. The Heat could never manage to take a lead, and after the first quarter, they were down 9 points. The Hawks' win gives them the number 7 seed in the East. Meanwhile, the Heat need to beat their opponent in the next game. The final score was Hawks 116, Heat 105. The Heat will play the winner of tonight's game between the Toronto Raptors and the Chicago Bulls. That game will be played on Friday just after 7 o'clock.
The Panthers are headed to the playoffs. Even though the Cats did not play last night, they clinched the wild card on the strength of losses by the Islanders and Penguins. The last game of the regular season is tomorrow night at home against the Carolina Hurricanes.
The Marlins beat the Phillies last night, and one player made team history. Second baseman Luis Arias became the first Marlins player to ever hit for the cycle, meaning a single, a double, a triple, and a home run in the same game. The final score was Marlins 8, Phillies 4. The Fish move on to play the Arizona Diamondbacks today at 4:05 p.m.
All Jordan sneakers are pricey, but one pair has set a new record.
That's still ahead, and so is the story.
You could talk about medical, you could talk about lifeless experiences.
An organization providing support for a special group of our neighbors. Newsbreak will be back in 2 minutes.
See us dream. See us remember. See us protest.
You matter. Your feelings matter. Your identity matters. Everything about who you are matters.
See us fight back. See us rebuild. See us shatter stereotypes. See us inspire. See us united. See us now.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
A big community in South Florida rallying around Little People. Members of Little People of America's South Florida chapter create support through community.
These are their stories through the lens of photojournalist Sheetal Bahadur Singh.
It is very important to be able to meet somebody with your same condition that can really understand how you feel, what you have to go through, and literally walk in your step, in your shoes. My type of dwarfism is pseudoachondroplasia.
I have been involved in Little People of America for over 30 years, and I'm currently the president.
You could talk about medical, you could talk about life experiences. I always felt, and my parents always felt, that I could use my legs and it would be much easier to drive a car that way.
I had to do a lot of research because our condition is based on bones, and locally those resources are not available. And that's why we create these events at the park.
From their home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Most of the members are of achondroplasia. I am hypopituitary. We carry out in our community the same as everyone else.
Grab hangers, anything.
Get closer.
Grab her to move closer. I use it as a good back scratcher too. Little things that LPs need.
And the group pertains to all walks of life of growth disorders.
Nora lives in a big world. So there's certain areas of the house that we wanted to make sure was fit for her, like the bathroom, for instance. She was diagnosed with achondroplasia when she was about 3 weeks old. With the era of Google, I was able to, okay, what is this? What's the most common type of dwarfism? And what popped up was LPA, the Little People of America National Association, their organization. They were able to put me at an ease and to also provide me with a wealth of information that I otherwise wouldn't have even known where to go.
I met people that like the same age as me, and they are the same height as me, and I feel comfortable there because I am a group of friends, and like it was fun and I liked it a lot.
I'm never going to be able to 100% relate to what she's going through. These people will. I can't give her what this community is able to give her.
Power to the little people!
There we go.
Michael Jordan sneakers making history on the auction block. The auction was yesterday in New York City. The shoes became the most expensive sneakers even to sell at an auction. They sold for more than $2 million. Jordan wore the shoes in 1998 after bringing home a victory for the Chicago Bulls in the NBA Finals. The previous record from 2 years ago was also a pair of Jordan shoes.
That's all the time we have for Newsbreak. I'm Amanda Gray.
I am Paloma Pimentel. Get more news anytime at sfmn.fiu.edu.